Episode number 22 of the Marketing Life podcast. This is your host, Taylor Timothy. And today on the show, we have the guy by the name of Mitchell Levy. This guy was on TED. He used to do some SEO back in the day, but he dropped some serious tips and tricks on expectations with your clients, on how to become an Amazon author, and some tips and tricks on SEO. So let's not waste any more time and dive right in. Okay, Mitchell Levy, so let's dive in and tell this audience your backstory, how you got into doing what you're doing today.
Well, I worked for companies up until 1997. So at the time I was working for Sun Microsystems. And I was, when I left Sun, I was running the e-commerce component of Sun supply chain. Okay. So the cool part about that is if you're in a high-tech firm in Silicon Valley prior to Mark Andreessen developing Mosaic, you knew about the internet before the rest of the world did. So, there were a number of technologies out there, including email and FTP and other elements. And so what was nice is seeing the world and seeing where things were going. And as soon as really, I think what Andreessen did with Mosaic is allow us to see it in such a way that it could actually reach the consumer level. And so I've been actively involved with the internet and now the web, for quite some time. And I'm in Silicon Valley, so I get to see and participate in and be part of a number of startups.
That's awesome, man. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit too about your AHA stuff?
So, what's fascinating is the importance today, whether you're in the online world or physical world, if you're going to do business with people, and this is what I did a TED Talk. You could always Google my name, Mitchell Levy TED Talk, and we reference it also on a couple of sites. But we do business with those we know, like, and trust. So you got to be known, online marketing. You have to be liked. That one is you. You have to decide how you make yourself likable. Taylor, you're certainly likable. Just from watching you, seeing your smile, listen to at least one or two of your podcasts, it's easy for people to like you.
Well, I mean, I try. So,
well, you recognize the importance. If you're a jerk, people don't want to hang out with you, right? They don't want to hang out with you. They won't do business with you. And the important part on the trust is, how do you get trusted? So we actually have found the easy button for book publishing. So the company is ahathat.com. And for anyone who wants to have a book, I would say don't waste your time writing. Don't waste your time publishing. We typically save an author 310 hours, and we can, from beginning to end, deliver a book that specifically demonstrates that you're the expert in your space. It'll be an Amazon best-selling book. And it'll be done in less than 4 months.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story. Thanks for sharing that with us. So tell the audience kind of like what you've specialized in nowadays. So like, what are you an expert in?
Credibility.
Okay, so
global credibility.
Okay, so let's dive a little deeper here into global credibility. But how did you become an expert in that specific industry of global credibility?
I'm not sure if credibility is an industry by itself. If you take a look and see what's happened in the world, we used to, and like I said, the TED Talk is absolutely worth watching because it'll dive into a number of interesting elements here. We used to be given our thought leaders. So in the past, who were our credible experts? Well, it was who the publishing companies decided we were going to read because they publish their books. It was who the broadcast media decided we were going to see on the big screen or the TV, and particularly who'd we see on the news stations. Remember, there was only 3 channels way back when, right? And it was interesting. Oh, and the recording studios, who we were going to listen to. These were our thought leaders. And because there was a small number of publishers who were helping us see the world, they decided who owned a particular space, and they spent money making that happen. And the publisher dictated to us who we were going to listen to. And subsequently, those thought leaders were people that when they'd say jump, they'd say move in a certain direction. Everyone would just say, okay, how high? Well, given the advent of the internet and the web and everyone having the ability to have a microphone and a camera, now what happens is those thought leaders are not delivered to us by those three sets of companies, but rather we make them. You have the ability, anyone listening to this can become a recognized expert. And I use the word thought leader and recognized expert synonymously. Anyone who wants to can be a recognized expert in your space. So first, define what is an expert. An expert is somebody who you pay or you get paid to provide a service. Simple, most basic definition of expertise possible. Because, if you do it once and you're horrible, the word of mouth gets out there. You don't get to do it many other times. If you do it over and over again, you're an expert. And the more people in your community that know you as an expert, the more you become recognized. So I've been actively involved in marketing companies, marketing experts, dealing with thought leadership. So during the .com days, I was called Mr. E-commerce by some of the big gurus out there. Subsequently went into thought leadership. As a publisher, we published over 800 books. As somebody who's written courses for universities, I've created over 71 courses at universities. And so, the thing is, for me, it's always been exciting to see where the world's going and to provide a tool or a set of tools, whether it's courses at universities, conferences that I've run, or other things, to get people to say, aha, I get it. I know where we're going. I know how to fit into that world.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Great story as far as that goes. Like, the thing is, like, you've come from an older time than I have. I started in 2008, and so you've seen a lot of change that has been happening. So it's really cool hearing how you've come to where you are today. So,
thank you.
So let's dive in a little bit farther. So during this time, you've been growing, you've been learning, what's kind of like a marketing campaign that's kind of gone south on you?
There are many I can give from my personal tool chest. I'll even give one I'll even give one as opposed to a client. I'll take the bullet myself. We all have at some point in time had somebody come to us with a silver bullet and say, you know what? All you have to do is give us money and something will happen. So this was a number of years ago, but I had a Facebook guy come to me and say, hey, listen, I'll build a funnel for you. And your funnel is going to be so amazing. The conversion rates are going to go through the roof. It's going to be better than any of my other clients. Right? And so what was interesting, and this was before we did the Done For You book service. We basically were a more traditional publisher waiting for people to come to us and give us their books. And so what happened is he was trying to automate something which didn't have a clear-cut manual process. And subsequently, there was a ton of money spent that went absolutely nowhere. Right? So my lessons learned were very simple. If you don't have a manual process, something you've tested, proven works in the real world, you can't automate it, right? There's no funny numbers. There's no funny solution based on automation. It's just simply you take a look at what works in the real world and then you optimize it to work in a way that can automatically happen for you. And so we spent a lot of money in that. And I think I spent the money so I could tell this war story. It was twofold, by the way. And for those people who do work for clients, the one thing that I hadn't realized at the time is when he was done spending the money to build the set of funnels for us, he then said, hey, where's your credit card? Because I need to spend money on Facebook advertising. And I said, well, how come you didn't tell me that up front? And his answer was, well, this is industry best practice. This is what we do. I have to tell you guys, this is not best practice for a client to find out after they've paid the money to then be able to be given a request for a credit card. So right now I'm working with 2 other Facebook companies. I've got 2 LinkedIn companies. I've got somebody on Instagram. Essentially, I look for partners that I could work with that can then take our authors and help bring them business. And at the end of the day, here's what another lesson I took away and something to think about. When you're talking to a client, you have to be clear on 3 things. A, what is the service you're delivering and what's the price? 2, what is the KPI? What is the key performance indicator that's going to measure success for you? And 3, what are the ramifications if you don't hit your KPI? And so anyone who's part of this, I'm building a trusted partner network. I've got 25 partners in it at the moment. Anyone who's part of my network, they will have those three elements, and it'll be very easy to plug and play different people in a component. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, some of the things that I took away even from this was, if it doesn't work in the real world, like you said, it's not going to work online. And then like your clear expectations up front with your client, you had a lot of failures because of that. You need to make sure you said you need to clarify the service, the price, the KPI, and the ramification of what happens if the campaign fails. So that's
can I give you a couple examples of people I'm working with, just things they do?
Oh,
which
yeah.
are fascinating?
Yeah, totally.
So I've got, so imagine now, so here's what we do. Taylor, you're going to love this. You press a button and you could be an Amazon best-selling author. So what I wanted to do, because here's the interesting part, let's also be clear. The book that you write, the focus of the book is the pain point that you solve for your prospect. So you had somebody online and you talked about coaches and consultants. The title of the coach or consultant book should be the pain point of the problem they solve. Right? Makes sense, because guess what? If you're an Amazon best-selling author of a book that's the pain point that their clients have, then all of a sudden, guess who the expert is? Who is that credible? Right. So the interesting part is we can now deliver an Amazon best-selling book, and imagine if you wanted to be a speaker and make money as a speaker. I've got a speaker coach now that she charges her amount, and she guarantees you're going to make in between 150 and 200,000 a year, or she'll book you to make that happen. Right? So her price point is $10K. You'll make between 150 and 200, or she'll book you. So there's a price point, there's a KPI and a measurement, and a result. The guy I'm working with on Facebook, he's going to charge $3,000 and $1,000 for Facebook ads. He's going to have a particular KPI, and it's basically going to evolve around an ROI. And every month, if the client does not receive the ROI that's promised, the $3,000 will go to zero. However, the client will be made aware that they still have to pay $1,000 in Facebook ads. Right? And if you're listening to this, you're thinking, God, that sounds like basic business. And the answer is yes.
Yeah. No, I totally
it's not
get
practice
it
today.
No, I know. I'm all about results. So I like how these guys are running business. It's like they're guaranteeing things and they're upholding their promise. So I really like that. The other thing you said that I really liked was just talking about if you guys are writing a book, like you said, write that book on that pain point and focus everything in that book on that pain point, because you'll become an expert. So I like that.
And I just, I call it a CPOP, customer point of pain. And that's, by the way, if I'm going to tell you my superpower, it's doing an interview with the author for 2 hours and extracting enough information to create a book. And I think you looked at our site. Our books they're written in such a way where they make a whole lot of sense for the online world and how we consume data. And as our books have 140 bite-sized quotes and 7 blog posts. So all of a sudden you've got a couple quarters of social media content, and you have something that's consumable by anyone you hand it to, whether that you hand it to them online or in physical world.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks for sharing that info with our audiences, talking about, clear expectations and, how you can become a best-selling author on Amazon. So let's dive into the next question. What was one of your first little online marketing successes? Even talking about this, like, how did you figure out that you could nicheify in pushing Amazon books like this?
Oh, I love that one. Let me do that, and then I'll tell you my actual really first online foray. So
okay, I'm cool with that. Let's do it.
The Amazon, what we do is we game the system. Right? People don't talk this way. And I just think when you're talking to somebody, if you want to know, like, and trust somebody, they have to be honest. So it may be something that goes away at a certain point in time, but essentially what happens is if you give Amazon exclusive rights to your book for 90 days, they give you 5 days in which you can give your book away for free. At the time in which you're giving your book, now this is a Kindle version, at the time in which you're giving your book away for free, You get 200 to 300 people to download your book, and guess what? You then become a Amazon best-selling author. Right? Simple. Okay. Simple, straightforward. So we can do that without the author being involved. Here's what's really fascinating. It's not about, it's nice to have that title. For the author, what gets really interesting is now there are 2 times they could touch their audience or help grow their audience. The first time is when they tell the world, hey, guess what? My publisher's running an Amazon best-selling campaign. Why don't you pick up a copy of my Kindle version for free? 2 weeks later, they tell the world, oh, guess what? I'm now an Amazon best-selling author. Thank you so much for helping me get there. Right? So it's really less about, in everything we do, it's about having fun and pressing the easy button. But let me go back to the question I thought I'd answer is, what's the first thing I ever did online? So 19, okay, this is really going back.
Well, the other part of the question is, why was it successful as well?
Oh, sorry. We'll do that one first.
Cool.
Why was it successful? Well, so the question becomes, what do you always, on anything you do, what do you define as success? And if overall my goal is to help bring credibility to anyone I'm working with, having a title called Amazon best-selling author or #1 best-selling author or international. We do this in a couple of other countries. You now become an international best-selling author. And having that title, so on my business cards, one of the things it says is international best-selling author. Now, at this stage, I've written over 62 books personally. We've published over 800. But at 62 books, it's not as big of a deal to write your next book these days. I have mechanical, automated processes in place that are helping me write books with the processes and the things that I do. So the interesting part, though, when I hand somebody a card, it says international best-selling author. They go, oh, my God, that is so cool. What book did you write? Now, when you're at 62, if you've been smart enough to listen to who you're talking to and you find out what's exciting for them and where their world is, then you tell them about the book that is relevant to them. And so by definition, it's just one more thing that adds credibility to who they are and what they do.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. So what was your first little online marketing success, though?
Yeah, so I there were many, many successes, but #1 was 1995. Mark Andreessen came out around that time with the browser Mosaic. And what I realized is, hey, I could build websites. And I probably in 95 to 97 probably built 30 or 35 websites. And what was fascinating is I created a website which sold bronze statues. And obviously did not have a foundry to create bronze statues. So found a couple of foundries, grabbed pictures from their literature, put them up on the website, increased the prices by 4x, took in the money and drop shipped the product. And it was pretty amazing. It was all about, really, at the end of the day, it was all about what could you do to attract attention. So a lot of SEO at that time, a little bit. I mean, the paid advertising, a lot of that stuff came later, although Google Ads were around then, so did some of that too. But the biggest thing was doing good, compelling SEO that drew traffic.
That's awesome. Even today, like, some people say SEO is dying, but I'm a believer that you still need to be doing it. So I like how you said good, compelling SEO is important.
Well, that's the thing. It's good, compelling SEO. You still need some form of website or some sort of blogging. People say email is dead, and that's from one of your episodes, but that's not true. Although if you take a look at what's hot, video is hot, texting. Particularly the coach client market, you've got somebody's cell phone, that is super hot if you text them good, compelling content.
Amen to that too. Amen. So let's dive into the next section. Just a little recap there, making sure you have a good website, making sure you do good SEO, and using text to actually maintain your customers, educate them via text, super important. So diving into like your grand slam for success. So when I talk about this is like your home run. You hit it out of the park and you are making it and loving it. So what was your grand slam?
It's so interesting. I've done many which are fascinating, probably the biggest, the one that I'm terribly proud of is during the .com days, I was teaching. I was teaching at San Jose State University, and I just ran out of time. So I went into the dean and said, listen, I'm out of time. And, I never like to quit things. So I say, listen, I got to do more. I have to do less. And the dean said, well, why don't you create a program for us? I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So I thought about it. I said, give me a little bit of time. I'll come back in. So I took about 3 weeks to think it through, came back in, and I said, listen, here's what the program will be. Let's wait 9 months. We're going to start it in fall. I'm going to create 30 courses on what is e-commerce, what is thought leadership, what is online marketing, what is, all the elements of, this was in 1999, right? So all the elements that are there. And then, of course, we used online marketing to drive lots of attendance, although at the time, online training wasn't as powerful. So it was physical attendance. And so I said, I went in, and then here's the most exciting part for me is I said, listen, I don't want you to pay me anything to build the program for you. 30 courses, 9 months from now, I'm going to work for free. I just want 25% of the door. And they laughed their way to sign the contract because they thought they've never had anyone before been able to drive such success to a program. And we ended up selling over 4,700 course seats, took over $1 million, probably 2.5 million of revenue. I mean, it was a nice program. And then this is what kills me. They were unhappy writing me checks, even though it was only 25%. So 75% of what came in the door, they capped. And that's probably one lesson to learn there. Good contracts. As much as I'd like to do a handshake, having a contract with somebody really helps clarify the understanding that you have when you make a handshake.
I like that. Good contracts equals good success. So what would you say, why was this successful, though? This building this course and everything, why overall was this successful?
Oh, I think as I'm listening to your episodes, it just reinforces the stuff that you do. Having experts in their field talk about what's happening in the world before the majority knows about it. So it's finding the early adopters who can talk about what does it mean to do SEO? What does it mean to do Facebook advertising? What does it mean now in today's world? It's the early adopters. What does it mean to actually incorporate bots into your business? What does it mean to actually have a go-to-market strategy that includes texting at the appropriate time to the right folks, right? So it's the newest, latest, greatest, and it's the fact that the world, what's fascinating to me is what doesn't work yesterday can work today. What doesn't work today could certainly work tomorrow, but you may have to change it slightly. If you're not continually setting the appropriate KPIs, measuring and adjusting, you really have an issue. And so for me, it was very simple. People needed to learn. People wanted to learn. And so as long as you cast the net far enough and talk to them in the language they wanted to hear, they were, whether it was email, newsletters, physical letters, we did a lot of advertising in different sort of online and physical publications. And so as long as you speak the language people want to hear, and then probably another element that's relevant, and so let me be clear, we had a credibility sponsor. Right? In anything you do, when you're looking for sponsorship, there's financial sponsorship. That's one thing, but there's also awareness and credibility sponsorships. And so we had a credibility sponsor. In that case, it was San Jose State. Or when I was doing stuff for conference companies, the conference company itself, if their name is big enough, they're the credibility sponsor, right? So when you're doing business, if you're working with a no-name individual or company, then part of what you need to do is you need to actually build the credibility, which will help drive the awareness. If you're working with a company whose brand is already established and in place within the community that know them, you already have the awareness. component. So you do a different strategy to reach both their existing and, as you mentioned, one of your things, basically targeting people who have already seen you in the past and doing a slightly different ad. That's pretty powerful because they already know you. So if people already know you, it's a different marketing strategy to get them to buy your next product than if they don't know you. And so it's important in setting up your strategies overall to figure out who you're dealing with and how best to reach the audience that basically need the company or the individual to service them, and then how to quickly, A, establish credibility if they don't have it, and then B, produce a product, ensure a product that's just so compelling they can't say no.
I like that. That's awesome. Find your target audience, serve up an ad that serves their need, establish credibility, and then give them an offer that they cannot resist. Love it. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that info there. So, diving into this speed round, I always do this with all the guys I interview. So, like, what do you do for fun when you're not working?
They both start with P. I like to play poker and I like to play Pokemon.
Okay, like Pokemon Go, or were you talking?
Pokemon Go. It gets me walking around, gets me out of. I've been working out of my garage since 1997. So when I'm not traveling, it gets me out of the house.
Okay. Pokemon Go and poker, huh?
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Well, it's hard for me to say this without saying, friends, family, and all that stuff. It's really, for me, work equals fun. Or if you're lucky enough in life that work equals play, you could play all the time. And so for me, everything, when I can have, sometimes I have 10 to 18 calls a day, mostly video chats. And when I could help somebody see their world in a completely different way or give them a tool that just helps them be more successful, to me, that's fun. And guess what? I get paid for it too. So I get paid to have fun. I mean, I can't think of anything better in life.
Yeah, I can say amen to that too. I do enjoy what I do as well. But, sometimes we got to do other things too. So my response is, oh yeah, I like to go mountain biking or work out. But yeah. So I'm going to ask you this question. This is kind of off script a little bit, but what would you tell your 20-year-old self?
Yeah, I've done really well in the stock market and okay on real estate because I live in Cupertino, which is where Apple's headquartered. So even if you don't work for Apple, if you own a house, your real estate has gone through the roof. So I probably would have said to my 20-year-old self, two things. By the way, when you buy Yahoo, make sure you sell at the right time. When you buy Apple and Amazon, hold, even if you had catastrophic returns, because they're going to keep going. Probably the other thing I would have said to myself is, remember playing the game Monopoly, where you buy real estate and then you could rent it out and you make money when people land on your properties and you put houses and hotels? Well, that game is really appropriate because it works in real life. So those people are really successful, really, really successful. They either made their money through the stock market, typically not just investing like a Warren Buffett, but because they worked for a company that went public. When a company like Facebook goes public in Silicon Valley, you got thousands of millionaires that are cloned overnight. But also people who have invested in real estate and had a nice recurring revenue stream happen day over day. And I probably would have said, hey, buy a little bit of real estate earlier, and then give me 5 companies to buy and hold.
That's awesome. I like that advice. That's one of my goals, is to own a few properties so I can maintain a steady income of, to retire at some point. So I like that. Invest in real estate. So what are some updates in your specific industry?
I think what's fascinating to me is in my industry, we're looking at book publishing. There was a point in time where the word self-publisher was just, you never wanted a self-published book. You never wanted that. Those are acceptable now. Not only that, those are not only acceptable, so many people are doing them. And because so many people are doing them, they're not generating the returns that people have had. And so for those people who write books, typically it takes about 120 hours to write a 120-page book. I like 120 pages because the spine size is good. It takes about 200 hours to publish a book, so that's 320 hours. So the biggest thing that's interesting in my industry is people coming back who have self-published and go, oh my God, what a waste of time. And I go, yes, we could solve that problem. So what's nice is that the industry has moved to the place where I knew it would get to. A, the democratization of book publishing, and then B, the recognition that it's not about the book. It's about having good, compelling online marketers that use an asset, whether it's a PDF or an ebook, or use a free plus shipping offer to grab the addresses of people they want to market to with physical mail. And so we've moved to the stage where people recognize that the book is just a tool to help people be successful. It's just such a powerful one. And so the other things I've mentioned during the show, texting works really well. Video is phenomenal. Short videos, short compelling videos, of helping to demonstrate your expertise, helping to demonstrate your credibility, helping to have your audience sort of remember who you are. Those are really powerful. They have been for a while, but they're just growing in popularity.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I like how you said that, like, basically the books are nowadays, that's like key to credibility. Everyone's always like, oh, you wrote a book? Oh my goodness. Like, you must be famous. You're an expert. So,
and Taylor, I'll tell you one thing, and I'll do it with mine. When I stand in front of a group, I'm holding my hardcover book, and I say, I'm a international best-selling author, and I've done a TED Talk called Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader. Right? So I don't need to say anything else. Right? I don't need to sell myself. And if somebody's in the room or somebody hears that and they go, I want to be seen and be heard as a thought leader, like, maybe I should talk to Mitchell Levy because he wrote the book.
Yeah. That's awesome. No, that's a really good advice, just making sure, you build your brand around success, such as TED Talks and books and getting into those different spaces. So what's your favorite book?
And I can't say any of mine.
Let's do not yours, and then you can drop yours.
I have two favorite books. These are sort of changing, and they're both older books. They've been around for a while. One, Jeffrey Cox did a book called Selling the Wheel. If you guys think there's only one type of salesperson, you've got to read Selling the Wheel. It's a fable. It's an easy read. And it talks about the 4 different styles of salespeople. The second is Michael Gerber did a book called The E-Myth. And he's got subsequently a number of versions and varieties of that. But it talks about how everyone is not an entrepreneur and how 80% of people who claim they are really aren't. And so those are really two favorite that completely changed my thought process.
Okay. Now tell us about, like, your favorite book, why you're so passionate about the book that you wrote, one of the 60.
As a matter of fact, let me not use mine. Let me use somebody else. A guy by the name of Bill Wallace. Bill runs a group in Dallas called Success North Dallas. He's been running that for over 30 years. He's the biggest servant leader I have ever run into in my life. And he has a book. It's called Being a Catalyst for Success. And what I want to do, I'm just going to read one of the aha messages of the book, because when you hear this, you say to yourself, man, I want to be this person. I want to be like that. And that's what an aha message is. The goal is to get somebody to think or create or act. And so here's aha number 3 from Bill's book. It says, living a good life is determined by the smiles that appear on the faces of others every time they see you, and they keep that smile after you've gone. How cool is that?
I like it.
Right? It's really it's on anything you can do in life. Mine from the Being Seen and Being Heard as a Thought Leader is similar but different. It says good thought leaders are at the top of the mountain. Great thought leaders are at the bottom of the mountain, helping others climb up. Right?
I like that too.
When you hear an aha message, if it inspires you to take action, I think of this as good, compelling marketing quotes that can be heard or read in 3 to 5 seconds. That's what we do with our program. That's why I love the Aha That platform. Oh, I didn't tell you, it's free to use, free to share. So anyone who wants to, go to ahathat.com. There are 47,000 pieces of content you could use today and share on social media. For free.
47,000, guys. That is a lot of content. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that as well. So diving into the next little question, favorite thing about marketing or online marketing? What's one of your favorite things?
Oh, man, I experimentation. I think for me, what I love doing is conceptualizing an idea and then trying to make it work. Now, in some cases in online marketing, if you could try it and it doesn't work, and then you know really quickly after spending some amount of money that, hey, this is not working. Or you could make it work. And then for me, what I love doing is I love making it work, making money, and then hiring people, and then I document, right? I put a process in place, and then I hire somebody to run the process, and then I move to the next thing. So for me, it's like the perfect world. I have a playground I can play in and try new things, and I'm always looking for people to run experiments and play to play with, because it's just online marketing is a great playground. You can do anything you want, and as long as you're having fun, obviously it's ethical, having fun, making money, man, it's a beautiful world. Amen
to that. So, favorite marketing podcast or favorite podcast in general?
I don't know. I like. There's so many that are interesting. Neil Patel has a podcast. I think it's called Marketing University. I like the guys that do marketing over coffee. That's kind of a fun one.
Haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else I listen to that's fun. I honestly, this may not be podcast because it's videocast, but TED has, if you actually go to TED.com, you can actually put in your preferences and get videos sent to you every day. It'll send you a new video that is along the lines of what you're looking for. I love TED Talks because what you're doing, instead of something that's 60 minutes long or even 30 minutes. I mean, I like the podcast, which is 30, but I like the TED Talk, which is anywhere between 10 to 18 minutes. Because you have somebody who's passionate about something they've done in life, spend enough time to do it in a way that's compelling in a short period of time. And even if it's not in an industry you're excited about, it's just fun to see what people get passionate about.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely watched a few TED Talks in my life, and it's definitely opened up my mind. So I do recommend always checking those out as well. So go subscribe, like you said. So what's one of your favorite online marketing tools?
Oh, I have to say, Aha That.
Okay, I can respect that.
One of the things I've done, which is fascinating, is at Aha That, we also have something called an Aha Blaster. So we can actually share on Twitter a entire book, and we have a calendar in there that will share an entire book of 140 quotes in 5 days. So last event I went to, they were showing a wall of people who were sharing the most content. And essentially, I took a book, I put in the appropriate hashtag, and I shared for 5 days, and I was in between, there was a lot of people selling. Sort of sharing their content on social, and I wasn't doing a whole lot because it happened automatically, and my name and picture kept coming up to the top of the ranking. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So if someone wants to subscribe to Aha That, how much is it a month?
Oh, it's a great price. It's a very compelling price. It's free. So Aha That is free to use and free to share. And just so you know, the reason behind that is I've decided at this stage of the product's evolution to monetize based on the authors. And so the authors are paying us to ghostwrite a book for them. We then take their content and we put it on Aha That, and every Aha message, every unique, compelling thought leadership bite also gives attribution back to the author. So when you're sharing content, the author gets excited about it. So please go to ahathat.com, share other people's content. You are getting recognized by sharing other people's good quality content, and they are getting the benefit of having your network see the stuff they wrote about.
Love it. That's awesome. So diving into this last couple of questions here, what advice would you give to like any online marketer in the world?
It's credibility through the eyes of thought leadership and being seen through the eyes of the individual. We're in this huge transformation. And actually this is really the reason I did the TED Talk, from the industrial age society to the social age. And between 1920 and 2019, we've only made it 50% of the way there. Now, in the next decade or two, we're going to make it the other 50%. So if you think transformation has been crazy over the last 20 years, man, wait for the next 10 or 20. And so what's really happened today is, and the reason I call it the social age, is we don't want to do business with this amorphous company that we don't know who they are and what they stand for. We want to deal with individuals who are the recognized experts in their space, who are the thought leaders. And so you've got some really big companies recognizing this and helping to bring out the characteristics and the names of people inside the company. And then there are companies that really you don't know anything about them and you don't know who they are and what they do. And these companies are disappearing over time. So online marketers, make sure you show the brand of the individuals, not just the CEO and the C-suite, but of the recognized expert or the experts of the company who need to become recognized in the industry.
I like that. I like that a lot. Definitely like highlight other people inside the business, not just the CEOs. So definitely thanks for sharing that. So last question. If there was like any company out there in the world, just like looking at a company, what advice would you give to that company and why?
Try that again, since I didn't see that different than the other question. So ask me in a different way so I can answer it properly.
Okay. So the first question's geared towards the marketer. The second one is geared towards an online company. What advice would you give them?
Oh, this is a great question. This is such a loaded question. Don't necessarily try to homegrown your talent from inside the company. There are such amazing humans around the world who have spent time and energy crystallizing their expertise, and they probably can deliver service and solution to you for less money than if you did it internally. So whatever go-to-market strategy you have, make sure you use a combination. If you have a lot of people inside, you could use people inside, but use them as project managers and have your true talented experts, the online marketers who are really good at what they do, hire from the outside, because that's what they get paid to do, is to learn to grow, to be up to speed, and not to fall into to sort of the malice that typically happens inside of companies. You get dumb, fat, and happy, and you don't have if you're outside, you're an independent consultant, and you're making stuff happen, man, you're continually up to speed. Otherwise, you're going to disappear. And so that's what I'd say: hire smart people from outside. Figure out a way you can make that happen. Companies like Upwork, companies like Fiverr. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I backed into my answer. Anyone who is in any position at all where they've got lots of stuff to do, give them a budget that they could spend on Fiverr, so that they can outsource the stuff that's really low level or stuff that's really high level and meaningful that they don't know, and they could focus on the stuff they're good at.
I can say amen to that 110%. So definitely look into other channels and avenues, hire freelancers. Amen to that for sure. So last question. Sometimes I forget this one, but I definitely remembered it. So if someone's looking to hire you, if someone wants to work with you, read all 62 of your books, where can they find you?
I don't know about 62. By the time they go for it, it'll be 63. But to simplify it, you can go to mitchelllevy360.com. So it's just my name, Mitchell, last name Levy, 360.com. and it has all of the social media, and connect to me on the platform that's relevant for you.
I like that. So LinkedIn, Facebook, you're all on all those platforms.
Yeah, I normally do I typically hang out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snap, Pinterest. I know Google Plus, if that's still around.
It's trying to make its way up there, but I don't think it's doing so hot. So awesome. Well, thank you for being on the show today. Any last questions? Any last thing to say on the show?
No, my pleasure. I love the stuff that you're doing and where you're focused. I like the energy you have in particular areas. I might actually recommend that you go out and, just like you have the guy who helped build online tools for coaches and consultants, I might recommend you go out to different verticals and find an expert in each area and use that for shows. You would quickly become potentially one of my favorite podcasts to listen to if you did that.
Okay, I'll take that into note and go see what other people I can find out there. So some people are scared to. I will say some people are scared to share their secrets.
See, you know what? The problem is that's old school.
Yep.
You know, old school is when people, are you ready for this? Over my career, I've had 5 people leave voice messages that say, I need to sign an NDA before they'll tell me the concept of their book, because their book is going to sell more copies than the Bible. And, you know, it's even hard to return phone calls when people do that, when their expectations are so out of whack. Any idea you have, any process you have, anything you do, there's at least 10 other people doing it. And so the more people that can know about it, the more people that can recommend you. You keep things close to the chest and buttoned up, someone else is going to come by who's a little bit more gregarious and a little more forthwith in what they do, and they're going to take over your business, and you're going to wonder what's happened.
Yep. No, I say full amen to that. So that's why I wanted to start this show, is I wanted to educate everybody about online marketing, because you can and the reality is you can find it out there. So but yeah, I just want to make myself an expert in this expertise. So that's why I started my show. So
and I like I said, it was nice to listen to what you've done with some of your past shows, and this one. Thanks for your questions. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me, text me. I'll shoot you an email here with all my information so we can keep in contact.
That sounds great. Okay. And vice versa.
Sounds good. Thank you again.
Take care.
Wow, guys. If you guys didn't learn anything today, well, I will tell you what I learned from this podcast. So, first thing I want to talk about is how he talked about clear expectations up front. You know, making sure you are very clear with what your service is, how much it costs, and talk about your KPIs. So, for you new guys out there, KPIs stand for Key Performance Indicators. So when you're working with your clients, make sure you tell them what your key performance indicators are going to be. You know, how much do you want to get a conversion for, what you're shooting for there. And then the last thing he talks about is the ramification of that. So if you are not hitting those key performance indicators, then you need to have clear expectations with your clients what the next game plan is to make sure that is happening. The next thing I took away from this podcast is, if you're going to write a book, make sure your book title is the pain point of what you are solving with your service. So I think that is super important to realize that. You know, even back in 1997 when he was doing SEO, you know, you need to be doing SEO. He also talked about doing paid ads. Back in 1997, they were still doing SEO and paid ads. So in my opinion, you still need to be doing that for your business in 2019. So continue to do that. It's important to build credibility with your clients. And that is basically my big things that I took away from this podcast. So go back, listen to it again, find out what you need to do and what you need to apply into your business. But the last thing is, guys, I'm coming along with this course. Hopefully it will be done. Like I said, keep in touch with me on this. And don't forget to smile today, guys, and peace.